Hey, welcome everybody. We're just getting folks admitted and we should get going in just a minute. Gonna give folks a few seconds to connect. Thank you for being with us. Okay. Well, hello everybody. My name is Strat Maloma. I'm with the AARP California State Office. I also serve as the California lead for our AARP Fraud Watch Network, which is a free resource, fraud prevention and education resource that's available to anyone. Our network is all about helping communities spot and avoid frauds and scams through information, education, resources, and events like the one we're hosting today. Thank you for joining us for our fourth and final conversation on protecting ourselves. These conversations we've been hosting throughout October, which is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we're now at the very final one. I hope you like the previous ones. You'll help us make this an interactive conversation by sharing your comments, your thoughts, experiences, and also by asking your questions. And like the previous sessions, we'll always leave time at the end of each conversation to answer your question. Today, we're going to be talking about text message frauds and scams. And before we get into that, I just want to share a couple of things. For audio purposes, please keep yourself on mute. And when we get to our Q&A session, I'll be happy to invite you to unmute yourself and to come on live and ask a question. If you do want to ask a question, simply type your question in chat, or please use the raise your hand feature, and we will address your question when we get to the Q&A session. So let's talk about text message scams. I'm sure by now, many of us on this call have received one of those text messages claiming to be from FedEx, the US Postal Service, or some entity, wanting you to either confirm some personal information or an address or something of the sort. Or perhaps you received a text message from your bank, somebody claiming to be from your bank, or somebody claiming to be from Amazon, and they need you to either confirm your account or confirm a charge on your account, etc. And guess what, folks? Those are all scams. So today we have a really great panel that I'm about to introduce to you to help us understand how do some of these and some other types of fraud and scams work. What can we do to protect ourselves from these types of frauds and scams? So it's really my pleasure to welcome my first guest, who's help us understand this, Supervisor Jim Walsh with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, who's here today and help us understand this and also answer some of our questions. Jim, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Can you please take a moment and introduce yourself for our audience and your agency, and tell us a little bit about what you do with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service?
Yes, thank you again for having me today. I appreciate it. My name is Jim Walsh. I'm with the U.S. Postal Inspection Service in Los Angeles. I've been in it for almost 22 years now, federal agent. Basically, again, a lot of people have not heard of the Postal Inspection Service historically, but we are a federal law enforcement agency. So we conduct a whole gamut of investigations that tie to the U.S. mail. So it could be violent crimes, mail theft, mail fraud, anything illegal or hazardous going through the mail. I'm currently the supervisor for our mail fraud team out of Los Angeles. And so I've been in this role for a couple of years now.
Thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate you being with us. And I really look forward to our conversation and learning more about everything that you're seeing and some of the tips that I'm sure you'll share during our conversation to help us keep safe. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome our second guest, Holly Peacock, and she's a victim specialist with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Welcome, Holly. You may have to take yourself off mute, Holly.
Thank you very much for having me. I must admit, I am somewhat of a groupie of AARP, especially Bob Sullivan's The Perfect Scam. So I'm very, very happy to be online today with all of you. I am a victim specialist, as he was saying, with the FBI, and I have been since about 2010. And I am one of probably about 180 victim specialists nationwide. I am out of the Sacramento division of the FBI, and I am located in the Fresno and Bakersfield offices. And what I do as a victim specialist is I provide services to victims in federal investigations, whether that be elder fraud, crimes against children, white collar, violent crime, terrorism. If it's federal and there are victims, then that's where I come in and all of my fellow victim specialists.
Thank you, Holly. It's really great to also have you with us. And I said,
Pleasure.
folks, we have a great panel, so feel free to place your questions in chat or raise your hand when we get to our Q&A session. So before I go to our audience questions, I do have a couple of questions that I'd like to ask each of you, but I'm going to start off with Jim to get our conversation going. So Jim, in preparing for this and thinking about the U.S. Postal Inspection Services, I think your agency, as well as AARP, has a little bit of a similar situation in that not a lot of the members of the public would, I think, of us as a first source to turn to when it comes to fraud prevention, or even really be aware of the work that we're doing in the fraud prevention space. So can you talk a little bit, share a little bit about the history about how the U.S. Postal Inspection Services has come to working in the fraud prevention space? And I know you may want to touch a little bit about the history of one of the great founders, Benjamin Franklin, and how that came about.
Yes, actually. So, well, just to piggyback off of that, yes, Ben Franklin was our first Postmaster General, 1775. And again, just really quick history lesson, I guess, about the agency was that we are the oldest federal law enforcement agency, established in 1775, with a surveyor at the time. Again, that over the years, hundreds of years, the title has changed. We were called special agents at one time in the 1800s. But again, our titles changed over the years, and now we are postal inspectors, which again kind of confuses some people because a lot of federal law enforcement agents are considered special agents, but different title, but same duties as federal law enforcement. But yes, mail fraud has been going on forever almost so that's why we're participating in these investigations. It's one of the older statutes. Obviously, over time, there's other avenues to commit fraud, whether it's through wire fraud and so forth, but the Postal Service has been around since our country was founded. So a lot of these old statutes still apply today. So that's one of the traditional investigations we do is mail fraud, among the other crimes that we investigate.
Thank you, Jim. So can you tell us how are you going about combating mail fraud or mail theft or other violent crimes?
So mail theft, we'll get into just a little bit.
We have a slide for you, right? I think you want to share this. Okay.
Yes. I just wanted to touch on a few other things we do in addition to the fraud work we do. This was just launched last year, this Project Safe Delivery, partnership with the Postal Service and the Postal Inspection Service. And just to clarify, the Postal Inspection Service does fall under the umbrella of the Postal Service, but we're essentially the law enforcement branch. But we created this partnership because of the mail theft issues that were occurring. And unfortunately, letter carriers getting robbed, we saw an uptick in that the past several years. So the violent crimes were occurring. And so the idea was to just come up with better ways with the Postal Service and other external agencies to come up with this Project Safe Delivery, and basically hardening the targets, getting better, more secure blue collection boxes out there, getting more training with the postal employees about personal safety, networking and liaison with other law enforcement agencies and prosecutors to prosecute these crimes. So these are all parts of the Project Safe Delivery that we came out with, in addition to our standard investigations of the crimes, going out and making arrests, obviously. But a lot of it, we wanted to upgrade kind of our prevention activities and networking, and like I said, hardening the targets, so to speak, with the blue boxes, and then we've got new postal vehicles coming out. So all of those are parts that play in the Project Safe Delivery.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. We actually send so much in the mail. I remember when we heard a lot about checks being stolen in the mail, washed and reused. So things like that and valuables. So tell us, what are some of the most common types of retail crimes, or I'm sorry, crimes related to that you're seeing at your agency?
That's all a lot of fraud. I mean, obviously the mail theft, there's the check fraud. Reason people steal mail, unfortunately, is to try and get checks or credit cards, other personal identifying information of people, to commit that type of fraud or identity theft. In the mail fraud realm, there's all sorts of scams out there. Unfortunately, the seniors are probably targeted the most from what I've seen in my experience. And I think that's because the scammers have this perception that it's obviously not always true, but this perception that seniors have built up a lifetime of savings or retirement savings. So that's what they want, obviously. They're going after your money. And unfortunately, that's the community that seems to be most at risk, is the senior community, for that reason. So they've developed all sorts of different types of scams, and we can touch on them in a little bit. But as far as investment or romance or lottery scams and so forth, there's all sorts of different ones that they come up with, including cyber scams. Obviously, we'll get into that too. So it's just the senior community as a whole really needs to be careful about who they're dealing with, and make sure they know who they're dealing with, and just kind of always be on alert for these type of things.
Yeah, I think something that I touched upon in the introduction about the text message scams, and I'm wondering what your agency is experiencing, or kind of maybe what your agency's response has been, to those types of scams where you get a text message saying, we have a package at our facility, but we don't have the correct address. We need you to confirm an address, and then you click on it, and then they ask you for some personal information, which is, it's all a scam. So, but I'm sure you're hearing from the public the frustration about those text messages and those scams. What's your response to that?
Yeah, in that area in particular, first of all, those text messages, please ignore them. Let me just tell your audience that. Delete those, block those numbers from your phone when you get those. The Postal Service will never just proactively or unsolicited send you text messages and emails about any packaging. You have to register with the Postal Service to receive messages. And if you're not expecting a package, if you haven't registered with the Postal Service, they're not just going to randomly send out messages to you like that. So I know that's become a big issue. We've seen that a lot. I've gotten those myself, those text messages saying that the package of mine was lost and I need to click on a link in my text message. Again, I just beg you, please do not click on any links. Just ignore those. A lot of that is, we call it smishing, is kind of the phrase where and basically, again, that's kind of the package tracking text scams. So it's just to be careful of those. Do not reply to them. And really, this applies to any of the scams that we might talk about today. Is always stop and pause, because the scammers are just trying to pressure you to respond right away. And the best thing to do is just stop and take a break. Talk to somebody about it.
Absolutely.
We talk, we have unfortunately, military personnel are targeted a lot, military veterans, by scammers. And we'll talk to them about their battle buddies. And it's the same thing, really, just for everybody. Everybody should have a battle buddy, like somebody that you just really trust, somebody, whether it's your family member, your kids, siblings, your friends. So if you get anything suspicious, any email, any text message, any phone call, talk to somebody about it, please, and get their input, because they may have been targeted too. They've maybe got those same messages, and they can, offer some words of wisdom. But again, from the Postal Service perspective, like, those text messages should just be ignored, should be deleted. Like I said, block those numbers. They're not going to just send you messages like that unsolicited. And that also goes into with the fake USPS emails. That's similar to the text messages. You'll get these emails, again, from scammers asking for money, trying to get your personal information. They'll talk about package delivered or unpaid postage on a package. So they're trying to have you click on a link. Again, the same thing with the emails, just delete those, ignore them, do not click on any links or attachments. So that's kind of the biggest thing. But the last couple of years, we've seen that happen a lot with these fake Postal Service emails and text messages going out to people randomly that are being targeted by the scammers.
So so we're heading into the holidays now, and do you usually see kind of an uptick in those type of emails, being that folks are doing a lot of online shopping and mailing gifts and things of that sort?
I'd say a little bit. It just seems like lately, especially, that it's just sort of a year-round problem. Because there's so much going through the mail now as far as packages go. Obviously, the package industry, in a sense, online ordering of merchandise, that sort of thing, has exploded, the past decade. And so people are shopping online a lot more. And, in my household, my spouse buys a lot of stuff that I'm not even aware of. So there's packages coming to our house that I'm not expecting. But so it's just sometimes it's hard to keep track of what you should be getting or what you should be expecting. But the main thing is just to be careful of, again, these texts and emails that you're getting. Obviously, there is an uptick in the packages that are coming out during this time of season now coming up. But again, it's just to be careful and track what you should be receiving or what you should be expecting.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great advice. I'm sure very often, we always encourage folks when they experience a fraud or a scam to report as much as possible. But we often hear from folks saying, well, I don't know what reporting helps. These folks are overseas, they're in another country, are sending us these links, trying to get our personal information or our money somehow. So what is the U.S. Postal Inspection Services doing or what can they advise to kind of identify or to find these folks who are international bad actors who are overseas and not necessarily in our community?
Well, yes, we definitely still like you to report it, so we can track it. We also have partnerships with other countries. The Inspection Service is a fairly small agency compared to some other federal agencies that might have offices in a lot of the countries around the world. But we do have partnerships with Canadian authorities, the Royal Mounted Police. So we work investigations, a lot of these fraud investigations that go across the border. We work with them a lot. We have inspectors in Europe or Jamaica. And again, they're able to kind of work with some of the local law enforcement in these countries to see what kind of intel we can get and to work with them. And occasionally we, are able to extradite folks from those countries. But also just, again, from the prevention standpoint, one of the issues we see is the term money mules, where victims, basically the people outside the country, are using victims here to help facilitate their crimes. So what I mean by that is if I'm a victim and I send money to somebody else who's a mule, and that person then sends the money out of the country. So it's like the mule seems to be the hub, getting mail and so, or getting money and so forth from all these different victims, but they're a victim themselves. They're unknowingly a victim themselves, and they're sending the money then out of the country. So that's just something, again, we don't want anybody to become a money mule, where occasionally we prosecuted those individuals as well. But again, it's just something to be aware of, that, you know, if you're being asked to receive packages, receive money, and then turn around and wire the money or actually ship the money elsewhere, that you're unknowingly potentially part of the scheme. And again, fortunately, we see that a lot. A lot of the money does go out of the country, so it's hard to recover it. But the main thing is to try and educate people to prevent them from becoming a victim or being part of the scheme themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, just to try and understand a little bit better, what authority in terms of law does the U.S. Postal Inspection Services have, and should folks reach out to report to your agency, or would they report it to report any type of fraud scam to other agencies?
So we investigate there's over 200 federal statutes that apply with us. Like I said, it's pretty much anything with the mail related. So again, just touching on other things. I mean, we investigate drugs going through the mail. We investigate anything illegal or hazardous, and any theft of mail. But yes, you can go through our website, the USPIS.gov, www.USPIS, as in U.S. Postal Inspection Service.gov. That has a lot of information on it, and you can file complaints on there if your mail is stolen, if you have a fraud complaint. There's links on there to file any types of complaints. But yeah, we're very interested in hearing from you if you're a victim, and see what we can do to help you.
I really appreciate that. That was great advice. So before I go to I introduce and bring back our second guest, let me ask, we're going into the holidays, which I think is going to be a lot of us receiving packages. Some packages are going to sit on our porches, etc. We've all heard the term porch pirates. What are some tips that maybe you can give our audience to stay safe over the holidays as they get their package, as they ship their packages, and so forth?
I'll try to, it's not always possible, but try not to leave your mail and packages sitting out there too long, especially overnight. If you're going to be away from home, you're going on vacation during the holidays or something, put a mail hold. So all the mail can be held at the post office, and you can pick it up when you return, or they can have it delivered on the day you return. But just try not to leave anything sitting in your mailbox or at your front porch overnight or too long a period of time. And then also when you're mailing things out, again, just, go to the post office, go inside the post office, hand it to the employee, or put it in the mail slot in the post office. I think that's probably the safest thing to do. And yeah, again, just be vigilant about what you're expecting. I don't know if you've ever heard of Informed Delivery. That's a free service that the Postal Service offers. You can register through the USPS.com. And basically you can see images of all the letter mail you're going to get each day. And it'll tell you when there's packages coming. So you can basically see what you should be expecting every day in the mail. So if you're missing something, then obviously maybe give it another day or two, but at least you'll know then if there is some mail missing. So that's again a free service that the Postal Service offers if you can register online through USPS.com. Just look for Informed Delivery. I have it. I think it's very useful. Like I said, it shows you actual images of the letters you should be receiving each day.
Well, Jim, so I'm seeing a couple of a couple of comments in the chat saying how much they. I think Linda and Maricela saying how much they love and appreciate informed delivery, and here's another one from Nicole saying how helpful it is. So shout out to you folks for that. So Jim, thank you very much for sharing some great information. I know you're going to stick around for our audience questions. I do now want to invite Holly with the FBI on and to tell us a little bit about the work that she's seeing and also her agency. So welcome back, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you very
Holly,
much. Yes.
thank
Hello.
you.
Hello.
So, can you tell us what kind of frauds and scams you're seeing at the FBI that folks should know about?
Well, we're seeing an epidemic actually of scams right now, and it's been increasing year after year. We're seeing swindles, frauds, scams targeting everyone, but predominantly the elderly. And we're seeing these scams wreak havoc in people's lives, both financially and emotionally. The devastations, just the ripple effects of the devastations just go on and on, not only with the individual victim, but also with the family members as well. So we're seeing all kinds of frauds. We're seeing investment fraud. We're seeing grandparent scams. We're seeing romance scams. We're seeing a real uptick in cryptocurrency scams, imposter scams, you name it. It seems that there is no end to the brilliance of con artists, and the brilliance of their deceit is so overwhelming when it comes to the victims that it's devastating. And so we're working really hard in our white collar investigations to combat this problem, and we're doing it all across the United States. And of course, we have legats in other countries as well. So we're working with other countries to curtail what we're seeing. Those that we have extradition treaties with, we're very, very grateful for their cooperation so that we can put an end to this if that's possible. But also, you know, when you think of law enforcement, you think of an agency that reacts to crimes committed, right? So crimes are committed, law enforcement reacts, we investigate with the purpose of perhaps arresting and indicting and, you know, charging and punishing individuals who perpetrate these crimes. But because the numbers now, the losses are so staggering, I'm seeing across the United States, and with our office in particular, we are starting prevention work. We've decided that it's not just enough for us to respond to these crimes committed, but we need to get out ahead of it. So we have developed seminars where we go throughout our communities and we give these seminars on fraud prevention so that people can get the word out. And the thing that we always say right up front with these seminars is we ask of you one thing. Please spread the word. Everything that you learn here today in fraud prevention, please spread the word. Tell your family, tell your friends, because we're seeing, you know, the FBI alone, our Internet Crime Complaint Center, we're seeing millions and billions of dollars in losses. And that's after the fact, right? That's after people have lost. So we don't want to see that loss anymore. We want to get out ahead of it and just increase awareness in the public so that they don't fall prey to these predators.
Absolutely, I couldn't second that question that your comments anymore. You know, I think the more we are informed before it happens to us, the better we stay protected. And
Yes.
sharing the information is absolutely vital. So thank you
Yes.
for sharing that. You know, I always get the question about who are these scammers targeting? You know, why are they targeting me? Do they know something about me? But who are you seeing in your work that scammers go after? Is there a
Well,
particular person?
I think, you know, they're targeting anybody and everybody, but we're seeing particular vulnerability in our elder population. Now, why are they targeting our elders? They're targeting them because they're the ones who have amassed wealth. They've worked their whole lives. they have retirements, they have savings, so they have amassed wealth. The scammers are brilliant. They know this. They know this. So they're targeting our seniors. Our seniors are vulnerable to that because they have the wealth. Also, one thing that I have found in working with many victims of financial fraud, specifically our older population, is that it's a generation of trust. When you think of the older population, there is an inherent respect and trust. For example, government entities, FBI, Social Security, law enforcement, FTC, you name it, there's an embedded inherent trust in that population. So if they receive text messages saying, oh, you've been compromised, Social Security, you owe them money, you must respond now, immediately there's a reaction. And I echo what Jim was saying. Don't react, pause, give it some time, have a battle buddy like he was saying, and verify that. But they're targeting our seniors because they do that, and they can't conceive. This is one thing I found also. They cannot conceive that someone would be so diabolical, so evil and deceitful that they would steal someone's entire investments, entire life savings, entire retirement. So they tend to take people at their word and believe wholeheartedly. They're trustful, they're believing because they can't conceive of it. You can't conceive that. They would never do that to someone else. So I think that renders them more vulnerable as well. And then also, not all seniors are tech savvy. So that's why we're doing the awareness as well to educate the older population on staying safe online. But that's what we're seeing, and we want to put a stop to that.
Absolutely. And you touched earlier on, you mentioned this is growing, folks are losing more money. And the numbers that the Federal Trade Commission reports, that the FBI reports, you can maybe even double that because those are just people who've actually reported their instance.
Yes.
There's many
Yes.
who haven't reported, and those losses are not counted.
Yes, we're estimating 1 in 20 are reporting, 1 in 20, and that's to our IC3.gov. 1 in 20. So you can imagine, the numbers are already staggering. They're already in the billions. It's just unfathomable how much loss we're seeing.
Absolutely. So, you touched upon technology earlier, and then also Jim touched upon the phrase smishing. We used to hear phishing per se in your emails, but now we're hearing smishing through your smartphones, etc. Can you talk a little bit about how you're seeing technology enable scammers to target folks, whether it's through a text message or other sources?
Yes, so I personally get them all the time, but because I'm with law enforcement and I'm educated on the subject matter, I'm on to the scammers. But we're seeing that people are losing in the millions, and it starts with a chat. It starts with, out of the blue, I thought we were going to have coffee today. Hey, I'm so looking forward to our breakfast this week. How are you doing today? Is this Julie? These are just little texts that people get on their phones. A lot of people, probably most people, ignore those because they don't recognize the number. They don't know who it is. But then some people don't. And also taking into account the scammers are persistent. They don't give up. So if the victim doesn't respond to, we're going to have coffee this week, right? Then they will send it again, and they'll send it again. And before you know it, maybe somebody out of frustration or impatience says, I don't know who this is. So I don't know anything about coffee. I don't know who you are. Well, well, that's okay. I guess I have the wrong number. But you sound nice. I'd like to get to know you. Maybe we could chat a little bit. Would you be okay with that? And thus it begins. And then $4 million later, we have a devastated life. So like Jim was saying, ignore the texts, the chats, ignore, block, don't respond. Check with your friends, family, verify, verify, verify before you respond to anything. You don't know them, don't send them anything, don't respond to them. Keep yourself safe.
Absolutely. And we often hear that these texts can be gateways to crypto related scams, pig
Yes,
butchering, investment type scams,
yes,
etc. So
yes.
who are these perpetrators? How do you have kind of an idea, a description of who these people are who are perpetrating these frauds and scams?
Well, we're seeing different parts of the world where they seem to be hubs for certain scams, like Jamaica would be, you know, a hub for the lottery scam. Romance scams, for example, we're seeing those come out of Nigeria. Also with the new pig butchering, the cryptocurrency scams, we're seeing those come out of China, out of Malaysia, Cambodia. So there are different parts of the country where this seems to be their expertise, and they have found great success in doing so. Part of the problem, like Jim was saying, you know, the money goes overseas, the perpetrators are overseas, so it can make it very, very difficult. But we have had our successes in our treaties, in our agreements with other countries, where we have been able to put a stop to these scams. I wish we could do more, but these bad actors are overseas. And like Jim was saying about the mules, they convert people to their ways of thinking. It's all through the deceit, the web of deceit, and they end up moving money on behalf of these scammers, witting or unwitting. And so then we have American citizens who get caught up in these types of scams. And so we have to address that issue as well.
Thank you. So, you know, you touched upon earlier about the importance of keeping folks educated, you know, doing these seminars, doing these conversations to inform people about emerging frauds and scams. Can you tell us, outside of that, or in addition to that, what else is the FBI doing to combat these types of frauds and scams?
Well, we do have what's called the RAT team. I'm sorry, it sounds kind of icky, but it's called the RAT team. It's the Recovery Asset Team. So I got a smile out of you.
Uh,
So we do have that tool in place where when people are wiring money, whether domestically or internationally, we do have that asset where we can possibly claw back that money. Of course, the window of opportunity to do that is quite small. So it's very important for people when they realize that they have been scammed, they have wired money, as soon as possible, report it to ic3.gov, our Internet Crime Complaint Center. Time is of the essence when it comes to that, and we can possibly claw back some of that money. And we have found some great successes in doing so.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So now, you know, similar to how I, you know, asked Jim at the end of my conversation with him, what are some of the tips and suggestions that you would advise our audience here to do to keep themselves protected?
Well, as unfortunate as it is, in our digital age, I would encourage consumers to have a zero trust mentality. I know that's not the world we want to live in, but unfortunately, it is the world we do live in. So have a zero trust mentality when it comes to emails, text messages, links in text messages and emails. Verify, verify, verify. Don't get caught up in someone's request to react hastily to any text or any email. Always verify. Go to the source itself. If you get a text from your bank, don't rely on the link in that text. Go to your bank independently and inquire and verify. Have you sent me that link? What is going on with my account? Check your accounts on a regular basis. Pull your credit reports on a regular basis, and stay vigilant.
Great advice there. Scammers are always after, I say, always after one or two things, either your money or your identity, or maybe even both.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they try to get you to react either through fear or through joy. So be careful if the offer creates a lot of emotion in you. Take
Yes.
the time, verify. So thank you very much. That's great advice. Let's go to our audience and take some of their questions and see what they'd like to know. So the first person I'd like to invite to unmute herself is Anita. Anita, are you on with us? I think you have a question about blue mailboxes. Anita, are you with us? Hello, Anita, can you hear us? Please unmute yourself, ask your question. Okay. So Anita's question was, what is currently the process regarding the recent fires with blue mailboxes? Can Mr. Walsh provide a site which we can use to forward concerns, text, or emails? Do you want to touch on that, Jim? Can you?
So I did put in the chat also about emails. If you receive any of those spam emails or fake emails from the Postal Service, I did put in the chat where you can forward those and then just delete them. I think you mentioned the fires and the blue boxes. Obviously, you can. The Postal Service should know about it, so presumably they'll be responding to it. We'll also be responding to it. I know, especially nowadays with elections going on, people might be concerned about ballots and so forth. Certainly, if there's anything like that, where a blue collection box is damaged, or again, if there's a fire in one, that's something we would respond to, and to confirm if there is, try to see if there were ballots or anything of that nature. Obviously, if there's anything that's still recoverable or mailable, we'll get back into the mail stream. But if there's anything of significance like that, where again, a ballot, that's something we would definitely follow up on, and we we bring it directly to the registrar's office, no matter what condition it's in. That's something we do. Again, there's a lot going on with the elections right now. It's a whole nother topic.
Absolutely.
But I know that's a concern of people with the blue boxes in case they're damaged or something. That again, if there's ballots in there, no matter what condition they're in, inspectors will personally deliver those to the registrar's office. But again, just in general, though, we do investigate any crimes related to that sort of thing. So.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate your answer. Let's invite Ronald. Ronald Chuck, would you like to come on and ask your question, or you simply want to know where to report a scam to USPS? I guess. But to any of your agencies, would you? Hello, are you on, Ronald? Okay, not a problem. So maybe you can just take the time to share how to each of your agencies, how do folks go about reporting a fraud or scam or concern to to each of your agencies? Would you like to go first, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, and again, Marissa, I know put it on the chat also, our website and our hotline number. But yeah, the www.uspis.gov. If you go to our website there, like the very top there, one of the options is you'll see it says report. So you can file a complaint if there's, again, some kind of fraud scam or mail theft occurred. It'll give you different options, but also one of the things at the top is tips and prevention. That has a wealth of information. If you click on that, again, it gives you all these different scenarios, all these different types of fraud schemes that are out there that you can drill down to and see, just to become aware of them, familiarize yourself with them. And it'll give you tips on, for each scenario, each different scheme, it gives you little tips on how to prevent yourself from becoming a victim. So I think going to the website would probably be the most helpful thing you can do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jim. How about Holly? I know you have a lot of resources that you can refer folks to. You want to touch upon any of them, or?
Yes. So if you see second down on the list, It is our FBI Internet Crimes Complaint Center, and that is ic3.gov. That's our repository of internet crimes. So it's very essential that if you think that you've been victimized, to file a complaint with our ic3.gov. Also, we have a plethora of information on fbi.gov, a lot of public service announcements on scams, a lot of education on scams. And also, you can always call your local FBI office as well and ask for information.
Wonderful, thank you. And also, folks, just want to let you know that we will share these resources with everybody in a thank you email that'll go out a little bit after our call. And I believe you can also, my colleague in the background is putting these resources in the chat. So please feel free to download them from there. Okay, I want to invite Murray Moore on. Murray, are you on with us? You want to come on and ask your question? You have a question about blocking emails?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having this seminar. I was just curious, I got an interesting email where the address was really weird. And then it popped up to some sort of a car, I don't know, a car repair place or something. The only reason I clicked on it is because I wanted to block it. And when it came up, it said you can't block this because this email is not really legitimate. So what do you do if that happens? I mean, I couldn't block it. I haven't seen it since, so I don't know. Maybe it was legitimate, but it was just very odd. The address just, it wasn't like a real address, an email address. So I was just curious about that.
Thank you, Mari. Holly, anything you could advise, Mari?
Jim probably is better at that than I am. Delete it, report it to your provider. Don't open it by any means. Get rid of it.
Great. And Jim?
I second that. Just delete it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And you should be able to hover over maybe the address or something to see what it's really so that it displays the real address where it's coming from. But is this not also something she should report to maybe the IC3
Yes.
as well as her provider? I think
Yes.
that might be helpful. Mari, thank you very much for that question.
Mhm.
I'm going to invite Karen Foreman to come on. Karen, are you still with us? Will you care to ask your question? Okay, Karen was looking for some ideas or suggestions for identity protections. I'm not sure whether this is a service, but she says, I know you can't recommend services, but what she would look for, what she's trying to look for is to find the identity protection. So do either of you know some services or what you would recommend for Karen?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. I was just gonna say, I mean, I don't have a service like that. But I know for me personally, it's just a matter of doing my own due diligence to always check my bank accounts, my credit cards, like just looking for any fraudulent activity anywhere on any of my accounts. And then also I have a freeze on my credit. And that, I mean, I know that doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but kind of at a point in my life where I'm not getting a lot of new applying for new credit. So if you're at a point where you don't anticipate needing to take out any loans or get new credit cards or whatever, I have like I said, I have a freeze on my credit through the credit bureaus. My kids have freeze on theirs to protect them. Unfortunately, I've worked cases where children are victimized, their identities are stolen, and obviously you don't know about it because they're kids, so they're not getting, nobody's typically checking kids' credit reports. So again, that's just something I've done. Is for me personally, I just have, if I really need to lift the freeze, there's a process you can do to do that, but Again, that's just to prevent anybody from opening up accounts in my name or my kids' names. So
Great advice there. Thank you very much, Jim.
Done the
Holly,
same. Yeah, I've done the
Yeah.
same. And I also, there are several agencies out there that provide services to victims of identity theft, like I think it's the Identity Resource Center, cybersecurity.org. They have identity prevention toolkits that walk you through the process of making sure all your PII is safe and sound, and steps to take to accomplish that. But it just keeps going back to always checking, staying vigilant over it, putting a fraud alert or freeze on your information, and stay safe.
absolutely. I think great advice. And I appreciate you, Jim, also touching upon freezing the credit of young kids in your house, because they're less likely to be running their credit than maybe an adult would. So it may take a longer time to find out whether their credit has been compromised or not, or their identity has been compromised or not. So really appreciate that, you sharing that. Okay, let me see. Concepcion, George, I'd like to invite you to unmute yourself and come on and ask your question.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you for
I
being with
wanted
us.
to know, thank you for inviting me. I wanted to know how to get the seminars in my city, like through the senior center maybe, or who would we call to get that going?
Yes. Well, I don't know that all offices are doing what we're doing. We're certainly trying to spread the word throughout the Bureau that this is what we're doing. It's kind of a new thing to offer prevention seminars. You're in California, I take it, probably.
Yes.
And so I know a lot of resources like in Southern California, where the FBI is involved in prevention. So how do we want to do that? You could always call me as well, and I can find out for you. I can put my number in the chat.
Well, thank you.
can do
Thank you.
that.
I had another question, but I don't remember what it was. Oh, I wanted to know, how do we report and to whom do we report that we didn't get a mail piece from the informed mail?
So I would also report it to the local post office, just so they can be aware of it or be on the lookout for it. And sometimes there is a little bit of delay. Again, I have informed delivery, and it is pretty accurate as far as what I get each day. But occasionally I'll see an image of a mail piece, and it'll show that it's coming that day, but then it comes like 2 days later or something. So occasionally there are little delays like that. So just don't expect it to be like 100% accurate every single day, but certainly give it a few days. And then if you don't get it, especially if it's something important that you're looking for, certainly report it to local post office. And again, if it's something valuable, if it's something very important that's got maybe your personal information, or you're having a passport sent to you or something that's going to have your personal information on it, report it to us too, since it could be potentially mail theft involved. And again, you can do that through our website or our hotline.
Okay, thank you both for your answers.
Thank you for your questions. Okay, we just have time for a few more questions. I'm gonna invite Linda Moore on to ask a question. She has a question about deliveries, the goalpost. Linda, are you on with us? Linda, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question? Okay. Linda says, why can't we have all of our deliveries made to the goalpost boxes at our local post office?
That one I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's in reference to the PO boxes, or I'm not sure. Sorry.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Well, Linda, you'll have to check out the website. I'm sure you'll be able to find some answers there.
I mean,
Uh,
I would say, I'm sorry, I would say maybe go, that sounds like kind of a delivery issue. Again, I would talk to a supervisor at your local post office to follow up with them, and maybe they can address that.
Wonderful. I'm going to invite Olga Ru. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. Olga, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, you pronounced my name perfectly. First of all, thank you so much for an excellent program, very informative and very useful. My question is, sometimes, a few times at least, when I work on the computer, it freezes, and across the screen, there is a huge flashing, message. Your computer has been compromised, you cannot use it, call the number, and they provide the number. What should I do?
Well, I think Holly wants to take that one on, right?
Olga, don't call the
Holly.
number. Don't call the number. Just a little bit of I don't know. Has anyone seen The Beekeeper? The movie The Beekeeper. It's a great movie. It's a really accurate depiction of these types of tech support scams. When you see that alert across your computer, makes a terrible sound. It looks like World War III, and you have to make haste and react and call the number and then do this and do that. Don't. It's all part of a scam. And watch that movie. It's a great movie.
Should I just turn it off my computer, because I cannot go forward unless I turn it off?
Absolutely. Just power your computer off. What they want you to do is they want you to call them, and then what they'll try and do is get you to give them permission to remote into your computer.
Yes.
And what they'll do is either plant some virus or plant some software where they can snoop around, get your password, personal information, or they may just sort of hijack your computer and want some sort of payment. So once you get that, the intent is to scare you and to frighten you. Just turn it off, unplug your computer, power it off completely, and then reboot it on, and delete the email to which you got the link. So this can be a result of clicking on links that we don't know, opening emails and attachments and things of that sort. So great. Thank you for catching that. Congratulations to you for catching that.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
So folks, I would love to continue talking to both Jim and Holly, and also hearing all your questions and your experiences. But unfortunately, we are at the end. We have run out of time. So I do want to thank my guests, Supervisor Jim Walsh with the U.S. Postal Inspection Services, as well as FBI Representative Holly Peacock, for their time, for their advice, for answering our questions today. We really appreciate the great advice and information they provided today. So thank you both of you. I also want to thank my colleague, Marissa, who's behind the scenes, who's helped make this whole series possible, for all her communication support and the technical support, getting our slides done. But also to you, I also want to thank you for joining us and asking questions and being part of this conversation. As I mentioned earlier, we will be sending out an email with all the resources that our guests shared today that you will get. But if you do, in the meantime, have a question about fraud, not sure what you're facing, is it a real offer? Is it a fraud? Is it a scam? Reach out to our AARP Fraud Watch Network, where you can speak to a live person who can help you figure that out. And if you do want to go back and take a look at some of our other previous conversations that we've hosted throughout October, simply visit us at aarp.org/ca, where you can see recordings of previous conversations on our Cyber Chat series. So with that, I say thank you and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.